a few other people and stuff like that. I've worked with a few different people, and I was one of the things that they asked me is how I do the crack fox, as I call it, or what a lot of people refer to as vocal fry. That ability to hit those screams and just be like, ah, and get that sound, and not do it with a whole lot of effort, right? So really what you're doing and what the ultimate thing is you're really what you're doing is you're hitting in between two different notes, and ultimately you're kind of pushing in that in between to where it, well, as I call it, you're cracking the voice. You're making it to where it's kind of like, so if I was to do a subtle part of it, you're kind of getting that, like that little sound, right? That kind of think like if The Grudge, right? That sound that they make. You're taking that and you want that kind of a tone, that and then as you kind of push and give a little bit more of a support behind the sound, that'll allow you to take that. So you're starting off with that little, just a little bit of a crack to your tone, that as you push, right? And you'll notice that as you do, the tone will become a little bit stronger. And it is no different as well, except for the shape of how you shape the aperture and everything like that with your mouth for when you do lower tones, which is your bass vox or your bass fry and everything like that for those tones and everything like that. So you can get those different fries based off of different tones. So you're wanting to kind of make those sounds, and you're gonna sound like an idiot when you first start practicing this. Just know that, guys, because people are gonna hear you and be like, "The fuck are they doing?" Right? So if you're someone that's really worried about like how you're gonna sound and like how people are gonna think about things when you're doing this, you're gonna want to practice away from others. But if you're someone that just doesn't give a shit what people think, then do what you're going to do, man, and just keep practicing. Because here's the thing is eventually you're going to get to where you can make those tones and those sounds, and you're going to be able to do lines. You're going to be able to do things where you can sit there and, you know, start forming sentences. Gonna hide behind your lies. Shit like that. You're going to be able to formulate these different things, and then you'll be able to hit different tones. You can start low, hit a little higher, and then go up and hit different things. My strength is not the bass fox. I've always been better with the mid to high. So for me, the lows, I'm still working on them, but I'm getting better at them. I can do where I can sit there and I can hit certain notes, you know. But for me, it's more of the I can hit those mid ranges really, really easily, and I can hit higher, and those are my strengths. Hello, hello, good to have you here. Um, Actually, it's not nighttime for me. It is only about like 5 in the evening, but I appreciate you. Glad to have you here. Love it. I love having people come in and check in and be a part of the conversation. I love it. So I'm assuming you guys know what this is all about and everything like that. And so honestly, one of the things is people being able to sit there and learn how to do this. Like I said, you are going to probably feel like an idiot when you first start practicing, and it's just because people are going to hear the starting ways of how you learn these techniques, and it's really learning where those in betweens are when you do these fries. That's basically what it is, because I call it crack vox. That's what I was taught. That's how I learned this. A lot of people call it vocal fry, which is also the same thing. It's really the same technique. It is just hitting in that in between, and just knowing when you hit these different ranges, oh, 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 getting that sound and then giving it support so you can hit those different notes and those tones that'll allow you to perform those and get those. And then that's when you can start doing lines and things like that. One of the things that I started practicing on was stuff like Linkin Park. I was able to start learning songs like Faint, where I could sit there and start doing the real lines and being like, no, yeah, man, yeah, no, and stuff like that, and doing lines. Or stuff where I started making up my own things. I'm gonna hide behind the lines. Shit like that, right? So you're gonna be able to start forming that, but just know that when you do, it's going to really affect and tickle your throat because there is a lot of vibration back there and behind that. So you're going to struggle forming a lot of long lines, and you're not going to be able to do a lot of supportive songs back to back using those vocal fries until you really practice and get to where your voice is used to it. Hello, hello, everybody that is dropping in. I appreciate you being here. Love y'all. Much appreciated. And so really what it's going to do is it's going to take a lot of practice. And one of the other things too is if you're someone that wants to be able to continue to do it more and more and more, one of the other things and one of the other strategies is getting to where, like, when you sing and stuff, being able to sing with a rasp in your voice, because you can actually mix that in and kind of having an edge to your tone to your natural singing voice, and then mixing that with a fry. And if you can blend those tones, that'll actually give you a stronger scream sound. I'm not going to do that right now because I have other people in the household and they would be like, what the fuck is going on? Is someone dying in that room? So I'm not going to do that right now. That can be something I can do at a later time. I can do a video at another time to kind of show that and support that so you guys can kind of see. But one of the things is, like, so when I do some of my songs and stuff like that, I can kind of get a rasp tone to my voice, right? So I can do something like, what's a good example? Like, misery and death is all that you know, you're wrapped in your own mind. So you can actually add that in. So when you push that, you can get that, and you get that kind of a diaphragm tone to your vocals as well as your screams. Hello, hello. Glad to have you here. You can back up your tones and everything like that, so then your screams and your vocal fry become stronger and they have a lot more support and tone. And so then you're able to do more and everything like that. And I've been out of it for a while. I've actually just started really kind of strongly getting back into things, and I've been putting more content of singing content and things like that, as well as songs that have the scream lines and everything like that, because I've been trying to get back into it and just kind of have fun with it. I don't plan to go anywhere with it. It's just something for entertainment reasons. But just know that if you are doing this, it takes a lot of time. And I remember when I was younger, especially in my teens, and I was trying to figure out how to do screams, I was just shouting like an idiot. And I sounded stupid. I did. I sounded like a complete idiot. Because I'm just this guy that's just like, I sounded like a moron, right? And everybody's like, what the fuck, dude? You sound like an idiot. And I always remember it hurt my feelings, right? Because you don't want to hear that you sound bad. You don't want to hear that you sound terrible. You want support. You want people to back you up. So one day I had a guy approach me and go, dude, it's not what you're doing that's the problem. It's the technique. It's what you're doing with the sound that is wrong. And he goes, what you are doing is not the problem. He goes, you actually have good support and you have good diaphragm sound. It's just the fact that you're not getting the vocal fry in there. And he goes, if you could figure that out and you could do that, that's going to make all the difference. And so once I was able to start sitting there and going, okay, I get it. I get what he's saying. I just had to learn how to apply what he was saying. And so once I started learning those tones and hitting those mids and everything like that, I could start doing different things. So then I started getting to where I could do midtones really well. And I was like, okay, so I can sit there and I could be like, oh, 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 and I could get those tones. And then as I was progressing, I could start hitting higher and higher. And so, like I said, my strengths are the midtones and the heights. So then I could sit there, oh, 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 and I could start hitting those, and I could push more. And so then as I was able to support and everything like that, I could do different things and I could go for longer. And so then I started really practicing and playing around with different songs. And once I got into that, it made really all the difference. Sorry, I needed a water break there. It's been a long day. It's hot as hell here too. So just know that as you're practicing and you're going along, you really want to play around with those different points. And like I said, you will probably seem like someone that's crazy when you're practicing this at first because you have to learn where those in betweens are because you're really hitting in a mid range between two notes to get that vocal fry because you're literally cracking in between a note. And so, as you sit there and you're doing all of this, just know that you're going to want to sit there and get that kind of like that. And as you're hitting that and you're going along, push it more and more until you start giving it more of a diaphragm push. You're going to give it a lot more air support. So when you start off with those in betweens, that start pushing a little more. You'll start supporting those notes. And once you do, you'll get to where you can hit those a lot easier and they'll just become more and more natural. And so then you'll be able to start supporting lines. And so once you get to where you can hit those notes, once you figured out those and can start pushing those, then you can start doing lines. No! Yeah, yeah, no! And you can start doing more and more and more. And once you can get that to where you have the air support, then you can do more. And you'll be able to do it so easily, and it doesn't take much effort. It's really getting your voice used to it because, like I said, when you do this, vocal fry really, really like vibrates the throat. And so it'll tickle it. And so you will get to where it'll make you want to cough and then that'll break your lines and it'll break what you're doing. And so you're not going to be able to do it for very long when you first start practicing because it will tickle and itch your throat when you first start doing vocal fry because of exactly what it's doing. You're hitting in between a note and it's vibrating. So you're getting to where you're going to hit that and it's going to tickle your throat and it's going to feel strange. And it's really training all of that in your throat and your voice and everything like that to get used to that. Because once it does, you'll be able to do it for longer and it's not going to bother you. But when you first start, like I said, it's going to tickle an itch and it's going to make you want to cough because your voice is not going to be used to that sort of vibration. It's not a natural way for your voice to go. So you're going to want to train and work on that because getting used to that kind of a it's a strange vibration. It's not normal and your voice is not going to be like, oh, this is a normal thing. So you got to train it. It's no different than training your vocals in any other form of singing and getting to where you can keep going and going and going because it's going to be a very different thing. And so you got to get your voice used to it. Once you do, you'll be able to sit there and do it over and over and over and over again. And you'll be able to start doing longer and longer rounds of it. So if you're someone that's going to eventually want to perform on stage and stuff, keep practicing this stuff because when you do, you'll be able to perform more and more songs back to back with that style of music. And you won't have to break it up as much with stuff that is smoother vocals all the time. You can hit heavy. And so you can start off with really heavy sets and everything like that. Start off with the really heavy songs and then to kind of get to the midpoint, you can kind of calm it down a little bit and everything like that, and then you'll be able to finish the set with the really heavy stuff again because you've trained your voice to be able to go back to back with these type of screams without having problems, right? So keep practicing, keep going hard on it because you'll train yourself to where you can sit there and go back to back to back without having the vocal issues and feeling like you got a cough and everything like that because the vibrations are going to bother your throat when you first start trying this. It's going to feel very strange because vocal fry is a very different because there's a lot of different types of screams out there and different ways you can go about it. One of the ones I do not suggest is do not start with shoutcore. Do not be one of those ones that is like all heavy, like, because that's going to kill you. If you start with that and you start trying to train yourself with that, you are going to kill your vocals. You will not be able to sing or do anything else for a long period of time because you are going to completely destroy everything in your throat. It's going to hurt. You might completely tear your vocal cords. That is very possible. But at the very least, you are going to make it to where, if you're lucky, you might get through a set, and then afterwards, you're not going to be able to talk and completely forget about going and doing another show anytime in the immediate after you complete a show, if you're able to even get through a show doing that for the first time, if you're someone that has not completely practiced. Now, I'm not saying that these other forms and stuff like that can't be done, because shoutcore and other things can be done, but compared to a lot of other things like vocal fry and stuff like that, or crack vox as I call it, crack vox is going to be a lot more gentle. You don't have to put as much behind it to create the sound. Now, I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be any air support, because like I said, when you're doing these things and you start teaching yourself to hit those ranges to where you're in between those notes where you're hitting the and you're hitting those different ranges, you have to support that with your diaphragm and you have to push some air behind it to get those sounds. Yes, but it is a lot less than if you're sitting there basically just shouting, which is going to kill you. You're going to lose a lot more air because you're pushing a lot more air out. So you're not going to have as much air support to do a lot of the things that you're trying to do. And you're using a lot more air to even create any sort of a sound. And I'm not saying that shoutcore can't sound cool. So there's a lot of people that can do it that sound amazing. Don't get me wrong. But if you're someone that wants to be able to create a pretty badass sound without as much effort, vocal fry is going to be the way to go, because it's just, you can create a sound that is going to take a lot less effort. And here's the other thing, is with what I'm doing right now over this, I'm using a lot more air to create a sound that could be heard and will sound good, as compared to someone that would be doing this, let's say on stage and stuff like that, with a microphone. Because a microphone will take that and all the vibrations of what you're doing with that natural aperture, taking that into a microphone, is going to amplify. Of course, the sound's going to be tenfold. So it'll take even less effort. So you will be able to perform through a show a lot easier doing that than if you're just shouting into a microphone. Yes? Makes sense, correct? So you will be able to take and perform and perform and perform through an entire set. And like I said, if you're smart, you will also be breaking this up with smoother songs that you may have and everything like that you can perform in between, that'll kind of mellow things out for a little bit. You can start with the whole banger and getting in there, and then you can start with the soft stuff, and do whatever, and be all gentle and smooth, that kind of shit. And then you can end with all the hard shit, and finish off strong, you know what I mean? Get everybody into the end of the show. And then if you do well enough, then that's when you get everybody being like, encore, encore, want more, you know what I mean? So there is an overall strategy to using something that will give you that powerful sound with using less of you, because then you could do more for longer. You're using vastly less energy to do so, using less of your breath so you can perform for much longer. It takes less out of your vocals, and so you can do so much more and keep going and going and going. It's really, honestly, vocal fry will get you so much farther. I promise you. Now, there are the other forms out there. We all know the pig squeals, yes, the that kind of shit. Your phlegm core, as I call it, the stuff where it sounds like you're snotting everywhere. That bullshit. I hate that crap. Don't get I fucking hate it. Honestly, the other thing too is when you are learning CrackFox and everything like that, another way that you can teach yourself how to give it the full support and everything like that, and it's gonna sound weird. Literally, it'll sound like you're about to throw up. Bear with me. So, one of the ways, because like I said, you can learn the way where you can do the things where it's like, that kind of stuff. But you can also straight up drop into it where it's like a, it's almost like you're in that range of like regurgitation. Like you were literally like, vomito, you know what I mean? So, you can train yourself and teach yourself that way as well. So ultimately, it is one of the best ways to teach yourself the proper, easiest form of screams that takes vastly less effort than anything else that's out there. So, anyways, I hope this has been helpful. I know it's kind of hard to try and give a tutorial in this way without having each one of you, especially if you're someone that's interested in learning, not be right there with me. Because if you were right here around me, I could sit there and be like, all right, let's try this. I could hear your sound and go, okay, let's tweak this, let's do this. I can be like, okay, let's try and give this a little bit more of a push from your diaphragm and everything like that and see how you sound. But I don't get that luxury, sadly, in this format. But I hope that with this and showing that it's really just figuring out those little getting that sound and then amplifying that into a full on as you push more air through, that you'll produce those sounds. So ultimately, all I can say is I hope this helps you guys. I hope this gives you a basis, and I hope that it helps you kind of get to where you can produce those sounds. And, I would love to hear from you guys if you guys, can produce that sort of a sound, or if you're struggling in some way, maybe reach out to me in a comment and everything like that, and hopefully I can give you some further advice if there's something that you're struggling with. I want to help each and every single one of you achieve what you're looking for. I'm not a selfish guy. I want to help. Let me help you. Okay. I love y'all. Y'all are great. All right, guys. I'm going to end it here. I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives some sort of a basis. I appreciate you all. Jack the Stripper out.